and Michael Ryan is my name. And this evening we're going to be talking about online safety, digital safety for children, adolescents, and we'll be doing a little bit about well-being and resilience. And we're going to record this because it'll go out on some of their social media. So I hope you're okay with that. We'll just keep identities quiet on it, so don't worry, you won't be identified. Michael Ryan is my name, as I said. I'm from Westmeath, Kilbeggan, and I grew up in a hardware store, and I was a hotel manager for a number of years before I decided to go back to college in my early to mid-30s, did a course on a degree in counselling and psychotherapy, ended up working in some schools, and so that's what I've done for about the past 20 years or so. So this evening, we're just going to look at some information around keeping children safe online. We're going to look at some information around anxiety management, and we're going to look at a bit of resilience building. So IT gets a bad rap, of course, but there are an awful lot of advantages to technology. So there's easy access to information, lots of educational resources, entertainment sources. It's vital these days for connection and communication, following trends, research for work and studies, generating content, games, movies, storing data, keeping up with news, ability to reach greater audiences, I suppose similar to this process here. It's good for developing creativity and then for accessing services, banking and getting tickets, all the things that we use in our daily lives. For these are all the positive advantages of technology. For younger people, it's very difficult for parents to try and figure out what is the balance between appropriate online life and when it's too much online. But because technology is blending into our daily lives, I just wanted to give a flavor of, I suppose, when your child is online, perhaps they're invested in some of these more academic type websites and online tutorials and podcasts and what have you. So StudyClicks is one that's used quite widely by a lot of the students as they're heading towards the Leaving Cert or even the Junior Cert. And there's lots of tutorials, past papers, quizzes, all kinds of things on there that are helpful. Revise-wise is something similar, a lot of really good resources there, a lot of podcasts, a lot of, again, the past paper study tips and all of that. Another one of those, again, I'm not promoting any of these, I'm just giving you a sense of what we're hoping your child is spending time online doing, and don't just assume that they're gaming, Exam revision is another one. Most of these have a lot of free content on them. When you go deeper into them, you get into a paywall situation. But yeah, there's a lot of free resources available on all of those. The past papers, again, they're all available on those. Schools and colleges and students themselves are using a lot of these kind of more entertaining ways of revising, doing quizzes, learning languages, all those kind of things. So just wanted to give you a sense that, there's a lot of interface between students and technology in a very positive way. A lot of the radio stations, TV stations, and that they have a lot of study hubs and podcasts and guidance counselors coming on, giving their views on what to be coming up on papers and how to apply for CAO and all those kind of things. So a lot of very positive, I suppose, interfaces with technology. I think the next chap is a TikToker maybe, so let's just have a listen to him if he springs to life. I might need to play it, but let's see.
I got 625 points in the Leaving Cert. Here's how I spent my first month of 6th year, September. My key focus during this month was on developing the study habit as early as possible. I don't think that you need to ease your way back into study when you come back to school. You've just had a couple months off of study, or at least off of any really serious study, so you should be fresh and ready to get back into things right away. When you are studying then, whether you're building the study habit or you're just sustaining it, there's no point in doing memorizing. After a memorizing session, you can't remember the stuff next week. You're never going to remember it for June. So during September, what I focused on was making notes and getting a good understanding of what's going on. I reasoned that if I could do that effectively, then the memorizing would be a lot easier, and I would just leave that memorizing until right before the mocks and right before the leaving cert, or if I had a class test, I would just do a little bit the night before. The way I saw it, all of those sessions of memorizing that I would have ordinarily done in September just ended up being wasted time. I got 600.
So I just wanted to give you a sense. There are a lot of, I suppose, positive, good TikTokers and those. So again, when your child's on TikTok, let's hope they're spending some of the time on accounts like that. Just wanted to touch briefly on AI, because AI got a very bad rap again at the very start. It was just about, oh, people would just use it to generate essays and that. And yes, they are doing that, but there is a lot that AI will be able to help a student with in terms of maybe distilling down notes and things like that. It's going to be part of our lives, so it's something that we probably should just embrace. And they won't be able to use it in an exam. So I suppose anything that they're using it for now is hopefully helping towards their exams. Just have a quick look at this video, which just gives us a little sense of what's happening in AI.
Generative AI evolves. Generative AI is a quickly started with generative AI. Here are 5 must-knows. AI is a machine learning model, not a human. AI might provide a response that seems so unique you may wonder if it's human. But AI can't think for itself or feel emotions. It's just great at picking up patterns, known as training. Use AI to empower, assist, and inspire you. AI can help you kickstart the creative process, but it's not there to do the work for you. That's your role as the creator. AI can and will make mistakes. Since generative AI is a work in progress, it may make things up, known as a hallucination. For example, it may predict who the top gymnast in 2035 will be, even though this information isn't available yet. Critically evaluate responses. Always check information that's presented as fact. When in doubt, double check it with Google search. Watch this space as generative AI evolves. Generative AI is a quickly evolving technology, which is why it's critical that it's developed and used responsibly. Learn more at ai.google.
So fascinating what's happening in that space. But I suppose, yes, that is all the positives, and we do need to get on, I suppose, to talk about the dangers of the internet and social media and all of that. So let's get into it. So some of this you will have thought about, some of it you won't, so I hope I don't frighten you with anything anything new. So there's a lot of inappropriate content, I suppose, the porn, racism, hate, violence, and stuff for like movies that show people dying and things like that, which really shouldn't be accessed by anyone. Cyberbullying, pressure of young people trying to manage their reputation or their brand, maybe even as they call it, to use a marketing term. The phishing is, emails coming in looking for your data. Smishing is, private messaging, doing something similar, looking for you to click the link. All the usual scams we hear about, fraud, identity theft, those kind of things. The online predators, then, we'll deal with that a little bit later on in the presentation. Radicalization, we've seen an upsurge in that over the past while. Dangerous portals for spyware, which are trying to get into your hardware on your laptop and computer just to harvest whatever data they can from there, and maybe your financial details and all of that. The constant need for scrolling is like, it creates a dependency type mentality. And unfortunately, there are studies now showing that the dependency on early age transmits then into a dependency and substance misuse later in life. Brain development implications also in terms, well, we'll probably cover that a little bit later on, but just in terms of memory capacity and cognitive function, they all get impaired by overuse of technology. So basically, the adults need to try and stay in control. I suppose when we think about the internet, and we think about it like a large building, you just wouldn't drop your kid off at a building and say, off you go in there and just see what's happening inside and just let them roam free, You wouldn't just give them a large tub of ice cream and say, help yourself, put it down when you're finished. So the internet is just the very same, I suppose, needs restrictions just like anything else in life. There's a never-ending list of apps that teenagers and young people are reaching for. You know, and some of them you may think are harmless, you know, like Roblox, Minecraft, those kind of things, but they also have been found to have an extraordinary large presence of predatory behavior on there. Um, this one up at the top, let me see, this one here, I think it's called the Vault, and the Vault is one of those places where people can store pictures on their phone, and it can be covered by maybe a calculator icon or something like that. So there might be not suitable for work type pictures that a young person may have that they're intending to share or whatever. And if you're checking the phone, it'll probably just look like a normal app, or it might look like a calculator, something like that. So it's tricky. You've got to just keep an eye on that. And also with the Vault, if you try and open it, by the way, it takes a picture of your face and sends it to your kid to let them know you've been snooping. So there are tricky bits there. 4chan down at the end, a lot of very graphic stuff on there that's really not pleasant. Whispers all about gossip and rumors and secrets being shared and things like that. SimSimi down at the end is a good example of when something was deemed to be so bad that the Irish government managed to put a block on it entering into our, I suppose, airspace and Wi-Fi networks and stuff like that, unless somebody's using a VPN. But you know, there are times when something is so dangerous that the government do take action on it. So the reality is, I suppose, children and teenagers are digital natives, you know. So I suppose the rest of us, Jen, I don't know what generation I'm supposed to be, but we're like automobile natives, you know, where you grow up with something and you just don't assume it's a dangerous thing because it's always been there for you, and so you just assimilate that into your life. I suppose prior to me, there were television natives and so on and so forth. And so, you know, when you give your child access to the digital world, you also give the online world access to your child. And so just go back to the previous point there. I suppose we kind of think about, you know, the internet is dangerous and social media is terrible and all this kind of stuff, but it's really just about the use of it. You know, it's like a car is not dangerous unless it's been driven by a dangerous driver, somebody is drunk driving or whatever the case may be. So the car is not the problem. It's how it's used is the problem. And so the internet is kind of just the same. We have to take that approach to it. Accessing inappropriate content is very easy for children to supervise. And I just put that picture in there. SpongeBob and The Simpsons tend to be favorites of those kind of mock-up porn site guys. So, you know, it's very easy to stumble upon very, very inappropriate versions of what are seemingly innocuous enough sites, you know. So just because it looks cartoony and stuff, don't assume that it's not appropriate. So you need to talk to your young people about the types of content and what kind of sites and apps that they may encounter and what kind of dangers are there too. You need to agree with them who they wish to link in with online. And family values need to be upheld at all times. So all children should be told and taught from a very young age that their behavior online should reflect the family values. It's not like there's one rule for you in the house, another rule for when they're in school, and another rule for when they're online. It should all reflect your family values. And then introduce social media some guidelines for your family. And I have a mock document later on in the presentation that you can harvest. So then clear guidelines regarding what time allowance is for each online activity and what homework, you know, what's going to be allocated to homework, research, gaming, YouTube, video calls to friends and relatives, etc. Agreements about where and when screens can be located and what times they are shut off. And ideally, screens should be out of the bedrooms, especially overnight. And then looking at the quality and the quantity. So just trying to get your child to show some kind of discipline in relation to the quality versus the quantity of what they're accessing online. So it's not just all bubblegum. So if we think about when to get your child a smartphone, and tablets and gaming consoles and so on and so forth. So the best, I know you probably want me to say this is the exact age, and it's so difficult, and we're always reluctant to say that because developmentally all children are somewhat different, and it's really about you need to try and think about the developmental stage your child is at, and if they are really digitally ready, you need to also look and say, are you ready to, have you the capacity to monitor it effectively? And then you agree on what apps and games can be downloaded, what level of monitoring is agreed upon. And then there's a big move currently to kind of wait until secondary school for most people to get their smartphone. And there's a lot of people promoting that 16 is actually a better age, which is the digital age of consent. But you'd be doing very well if you got away with holding off till 16, but doing pretty good if you can hold off till secondary school. So monitoring is something, again, you'll have to just decide yourself on what is appropriate and what you feel comfortable with as well. So Apple and Android, they have family management controls built in. You can look at filtering controls around your Wi-Fi routers and the devices themselves. There are safe search options on devices to ensure that they're turned on, particularly for the younger kids. I would, wherever you can, disable in-app purchases. A lot of parents have been well, they have been, well, a lot of money has come out of their credit cards and their bank cards. And then weirdly, they're kind of going, I was kind of impressed with my kid that they managed to kind of rob my card and could input all that data. But I mean, digital natives, kids are very clued into all this stuff. So, yeah. Turning off location settings, so avoiding geotagging and then setting accounts to private or friends only is very helpful. Having a discussion with your child about online safety. So we need to kind of just treat it like any other family situation, any other family issue, you know. So ask them about their favorite apps, talk to them about their digital life, you know, discuss why the monitoring is important in the very same way as you would explain why you're collecting them from somewhere, or why you're not allowing them to go somewhere on their own, or why different safety things need to be put in place. The online is just exactly the same. Talk about how information can be shared and how it's not private online, and that they won't know when or where the comments images will be shared. Talk about the dangers of sharing location, personal identity details, contact information, family business, financial details, images, etc. So they need to know why you are putting in so many restrictions and that. Using nicknames instead of actual names, and never automatically trust people online, and certainly people that you don't know in real life, you know. And then make agreements with your child about reporting anything that is worrisome, and make the reports then when appropriate to the app, I suppose, in the first place, and the services, the agencies, the Gardaí, TUSLA, or whomever else needs to be involved. So if devices are not allowed on the table, so this is kind of just, I suppose, etiquette behavior and etiquette, you know, in the house. So it must be for everybody. Parents, of course, are always tempted to say, you need your phone there because it's for work, it's very important, but a child's phone is also just as important to them, if not more so. So you need to decide that it's for everybody. Be conscious of your own dependency and frequency and scrolling and checking, because, and again, look, I'm not saying, you know, it's all down to the parents, and if the kids weren't watching their parent doing that, they wouldn't be doing it the same. It's just something I just need to include here to be conscious of, but I do not want to be in any way judgmental about anyone's stuff. Just want to, I suppose, put them out there for you just to have a think about. Now, adults are different, and sometimes the ground rules may be different if somebody's working from home and also needs to attend to some stuff. So the rules can be different for adults, just as they are in relation to what you eat and what you drink and what you do with your time and all those kind of things. Adults are different from kids, and sometimes rules need to be changed. So just decide on where and when it's appropriate to have differing rules. Trying to avoid relying on your devices. Again, not a judgment, just need to throw it in there. And then if you can implement the one screen at a time rule, not watching TV and video and scrolling at the same time, and that can be quite tricky. So cyberbullying, we need to look at this. So what is it? It's about, I suppose, hurtful messages, excluding people, posting nasty comments, using photos or videos, threatening to share things, about someone using fake profiles, and then getting people swept up in the moment of maybe targeting a particular person and getting caught up in that. It's a tricky one, and some social media and online forums allow anonymous and unverifiable or disappearing comments and unverifiable sharing. So toxic content can be transmitted freely. So it's just something that really need to keep an eye on. Best practice says ignore, try and screenshot what's there, block the person, and then report. There's some wonderful stuff on the National Parent Council website. And if a child of yours is being cyberbullied, you should contact the school or the club, wherever the bullying is connected to. So if it's people in a club, the club should be aware. If it's people in the school, even if it's after school, it's still the school's responsibility because they're connected through the school. So, and then if it's serious, the Gardaí need to get involved. When we look at grooming, then this is about, I suppose, people trying to access your child for lots of different reasons. We'll list them out there in a minute. So just things to watch out for, the child wanting to spend more and more time, being very secretive about the sites that they're visiting, switching screens when you walk into the room, possessing new items, maybe somebody has given them something, using language or imagery that's not age appropriate for them, and then maybe you'll see a change in their emotional well-being. So it's just important to stay calm, encourage them to talk openly, advise that they don't respond to or delete messages, use private settings, online blocking and reporting mechanisms, talk to the Gardaí if it is a serious harassment, threat or harm of decent images or videos, and then using helplines such as Childline. Unsupervised access always allows the possibility of predators engaging in grooming techniques. They're usually looking for sharing inappropriate content and pictures. They want to meet in real life. It can also be about blackmailing and extortion. So keep an eye on the bank account as well in case something goes missing. And again, they could be there looking for to do scams, to do radicalization, somehow gaining control, or to try and coerce them onto gambling sites. So the digital age of consent in Ireland is 16. So a lot of the social medias are 13, and 13 to 16 means that they need parental consent. Unfortunately, an awful lot of the social media apps don't really have any very strong controls on how they verify the age of a child. And so a child just says that they're older and then they don't need the parental consent. So it's quite a tricky one. So please try and keep an eye on what apps your child has engaged with. Generally, I say, if you wouldn't say it to your granny, don't put it up online. So young people, they're ambassadors for your family, online as well as offline. Use the mute or do not disturb features. This is kind of for all of us. There's some, yourself, you have some messaging apps that are extraordinarily busy. As a family, then maybe practice digital detoxing if you could. And I saw Richard Hogan there last week or the week before, trying to get all the families. I think it was on the 14th maybe of October. So it might be something that he'll try a few times, trying to get all families to digitally detox for 24 hours. So I thought it was a great initiative, and thousands of people signed up to it. So it's probably no harm to do a digital detox, just all machines off for a day, and do the board games and do whatever we might have done in the olden days when there'd be a power cut. Family agreement, then document for online use. It's in some slides later on. I will check on how various games and platforms, etc., make you feel. So this is useful thing for you to check with children just to see what is healthy that they're accessing and what is not. So just looking at gaming then, if we could. So agree that they stick to chatting only to people that they know. Try and agree to limiting the chat to the game itself. Now, you know yourself, younger people, they'll be roaring and shouting and probably cursing and all of that. It seems to be part and parcel for the game. But again, it's just maybe about having a chat with your child just to say that You're still representing your family when they're in a gaming room as well. Try and agree to the duration and factor in breaks to give them give their brain a break, because otherwise it'll go into meltdown if they stay too long. Try to avoid those games that require constant involvement, constant building, constant engagement, constant protection of your world or whatever it is, because that's a real draw over to it to see what's happening in that world and how do I protect myself and make sure nobody's attacking my empire, my world. So agree with the child, to show parents any messages that seek images, meetings, or bullying in nature, request personal data or secrecy. Turn off or agree limitations on in-app purchases. Agree to avoid clicking links to other sites, which are probably phishing or smishing sites. Agree limitations or bans on trading, purchasing in-game items, rewards, or products. And again, you'll find an enormous amount of money can be swallowed up into these games and skins and things. Explore reporting and blocking processes on the games. Avoid identifiable names, use nicknames instead. And try and avoid immediate shutoffs where you come up and pull the plug and switch it off and you must come down now. Just try and negotiate in advance that dinner is going to be at a certain time. You're going to expect them down at that time. Make sure they're wrapping up the game to be down in time. Pulling the plug and turning off the Wi-Fi and those kind of things, it just leads to a lot of arguments and maybe you lose some hard-earned gains. So that's a real source of contention for younger people. Common Sense Media, I just sort of put that up there. It's a wonderful way to kind of check the app, the website, anything that your child is accessing is probably going to be in there somewhere, and other parents will have a review on what age they think is appropriate, what the game is about, who they think it's suitable for, and all of that. In relation to social media then, so Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok, Reddit, YouTube, Threads, BeReal, Spotify, Discord, they're the most popular entertainment communication and some learning. They're mostly 13 plus. Younger games like Go Noodle, Poke Book, Lego Life, those kind of things are designed for younger people. Try and make sure the settings are on private or friends only. And just remember, if your child has access to the world has access to your child. When we look at fake news, it's particularly prevalent in America, I guess, around this time also. But it has come here in very much so in the past 12 months or so, and a lot of misinformation, disinformation. So what is it? It's about fake news, literally fake news, false, sensational propaganda, and satire. Sometimes the satire is funny, but the fake news is usually designed to try and sway your view in something. Conspiracy theories then widely used through right-wing content creators, and particularly young teenage boys, any age teenage boys and into their 20s, into their mid-20s usually. So they're very susceptible, and yeah, it's just something to really keep an eye on. Deep fakes, those using the AI and CGI, so they can take a couple of seconds of a voice, make a voice note from it. You maybe somebody makes out that it's your child in trouble and they need you to send them money and or whatever, and all of that kind of stuff. So AI is going dark as well as having all the positives. Clickbait then, things when you see, you'll never believe what such and such a celebrity did, or you've got to see this type of thing, just getting you to click through, and then they can harvest whatever they're looking for from you. Advertisements then, so again, it'll be like only the top 3% intelligent people will solve this riddle, and the riddle is usually fairly easy, but kind of gives you a little boost. Oh, I must be in the top 3%. So you click the thing, and then you're sucked down into some kind of again, some kind of clickbait kind of a thing where you are the product, So they generally use celebrities and very catchy headlines. Scare challenges then, this was a big issue a couple of years ago. This blue whale was a 50 target process, where the last process was that the child would kill themselves. So it was a suicide mission. And so we'll set these really small little targets first and try and get drawn into it. And we lost a couple of people here in this country through that. Thankfully, I haven't really heard as much about it. Kids talk about this thing called Bloody Mary, where they have to turn around a few times, look in the mirror, and say some words, and the scary person's going to jump out, and they just get drawn into these things, and sometimes it can be really scary for them, Slenderman type stuff, and that. So I have dealt with dissociated children over these things that they just get kind of drawn into through the internet. And then we've spoken about the scams and the phishing and the smishing through all kinds of things. You get the emails every day. Somebody wants to donate €1 million to you from their fund because they have cancer and they're off in America and you have the same name as them or whatever it is. Or there's fake tickets and fake jobs and fake everything. But again, you're the product just trying to harvest your information. So it's something you've got to be really careful for. And on the radio every day, I hear somebody else who's falling for yet another scam. And they're the people, just like I would say, oh my God, I'd never fall for that. And they would say, up until today, I was the person who said I'd never fall for that. Thankfully, so far, I haven't managed to get scammed or fished, but I'm never going to say I'll never fall for that because I don't know. I don't want to be on the Joe Duffy show one day saying I was the guy who'd never fall for that. But I have become uber kind of, I suppose, safe and curious and inquisitive and cautious about any text I get and any email I get. So in relation to how much screen time, so the screen time in your household, it's the good questions is screen time in your household controlled? Does screen time interfere with what your family want to do? Does it interfere with sleep? And are you able to control snacking? ChildNet suggests the amount of screen time appropriate will differ per child. And you know yourself, you can have even twins who are very different developmentally, or, children who pass through the same age as you've seen before in the family are very, very different, So you need to consider the age and maturity of the child and the presence or of absence or of additional needs, which may be impacting their ability to manage themselves online, the quality and then the balance of online and offline activities, and the current level that it's having on their mood, sleep, or behavior. I'm not going to play this video if that's okay. I think it's just something you can have a look at yourself. You'll find it easily on YouTube if you want to go on to any of the parental control, whatever kind of device it is that you're trying to control. I'm not going to go through this either, but I just want to put the slide up there, which you'll have, and it's about maybe trying to find family agreements around online content. And then there's a little agreement there, which you can stick up on your whiteboard or your green board or your fridge or whatever it is. If you're still old-fashioned enough to have those, I hope you are. Or it can be a downloadable thing, I guess, for you if you want to do it that way. We will have a look at this because this is from CyberSafe Kids, and it's about same rules apply. It's I suppose a handy way just to reiterate some of the stuff I've been saying. Let's have a look.
As parents, we'd never allow this to happen offline, so why allow it online? Giving your child unsupervised access to the online world means you're also giving the online world unsupervised access to your child. Remember, online or offline, same rules apply.
Okay. So then just when you're talking to your child, then just if they do come across something unsavory, just have a chat with them just to see who do they trust in their life, what do we need to do when they come across something that is unsavory, and just set them up for when something goes wrong, because stuff does go wrong and people do access things inadvertently or a bit of bullying might happen or whatever it is. So just have a little chat with them and a little plan for what they do so that they know when it happens, they'll immediately feel safe because they know what to do and who to go to. I'm just going to go through a few, there's just a few websites here which can help with just, I suppose, when you're curious about different things. So that's the Pan-European Game Information, if you just want to check out different games and the age ratings and those kind of things. Web-wise, great stuff for parents particularly, and they have a lot of training, kind of webinars like this and different information about staying wise on the web. Family Friendly HQ as well, they have a lot of stuff on there. National Society for Prevention of Cruelty to Children, they also have quite a bit of stuff up there about keeping children safe online. And I'm not going to go through too much because I think let me go back there. I think most of these we have covered. Yeah, the rules from parents, foster culture, valuing the person. Okay, not the stuff. Okay. And that's again about children, saying such and such has a phone. I need to get a phone like that. So that we put more stock into the value of a person rather than the stuff that they have. And that's a tricky one because it's the same about runners and the same about tracksuits and all of that kind of stuff. Digital detoxing, we said that, and they're ambassadors for your family online as well as off. Let's see if there's anything there we didn't cover. Okay, so yeah, if children are split across a couple of locations, just make sure that you're trying to uphold the same rules for them around screen time and what they can access in any house that they're in. Walk the walk as the parent. Okay, they're not push notifications. That's good too, because otherwise your phone is just bing, 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 dinging all the time. That's more for you than for them. Okay. And yeah, remind the child, well, they've been often told this, the internet is written in pen, not pencil, so whatever they put up there is there permanently. Let's just have a little look at anxiety for children and see what we can do, because sometimes I suppose the research is showing that they are a little bit more anxious because of the level of time we're spending online. So children are not just as calm as they used to be, probably just through overstimulation, So look, natural anxiety has a role to play in a child's life. And once it's balanced, it can help with maybe motivating someone to perform to the best of their abilities. Healthy anxiety, it can induce desire to study and train for a challenge, prompt a child to learn social norms and develop social skills and talents, and promote creativity, form a basis of inventive coping strategies, and establish patterns of planning, organizing, and forward thinking so that they don't get caught out and they have their homework done and they're ready for the presentation or whatever it is or the play or whatever it is they're doing. So, but of course, we need to probably look just at the impacts of the other tricky anxiety. So when they're overly anxious, then they can develop a poor sense of identity. So they're kind of comparing themselves to their family, their peers, their idols, or trends that are happening. They can catastrophize situations and reach for the worst case scenarios. As Michel de Montaigne said, my life has been filled with so many misfortunes, most of which never happened. I think a lot of us are like that. We kind of reach to the catastrophizing, and in an awful lot of cases, it doesn't happen. So they can develop tics, stammers, and so on and so forth. And anxiety, we need to remember, both perceived and actual causes the same amount of pain and distress, so whether we just think something is going to happen or whether something is actually likely to happen. So, so they might think of that around what's going to happen to their parents, themselves, or situations. Again, we look at biological and chronological development. So all children are maturing at different ages and stages, and even boys and girls, we tend to mature at different ages and stages also. Self-esteem challenges, we always will, when the child is in the compare and despair stage, they'll be always saying somebody is better, faster, smarter, prettier, taller, funnier, all those kind of things, It can also be difficult because their friends might change frequently throughout childhood. And that brings an anxiety in and of itself, a kind of a fear of being alone all the time when they find themselves in between friend groups. But adapts to new environments and situations quite easily once the needs are met. So when we have everything sorted, they're fine. The top worries for young people, I don't need to go through all of these, but they're generally considered, well, for the younger people to be worried about kidnappers, robbers, those kind of things. But in general, children, there's no kind of endless list of the kind of things that they can worry about. They're generally the kind of the big ticket items for what kids say they worry about. But anyway, you know yourself what particular things your child is worried about, so I don't need to dwell too much on any of those. So our first reaction when a child is displaying anxiety around or a fear around something is to accommodate an avoidance, because it's kind of easier in the beginning. You think it's helpful. You feel the child will feel unsupported if you don't accommodate them. You might feel guilty or mean if you don't try and just save the situation right then and just say, oh, don't worry about it. You don't have to do that. Yeah, let's just forget about that, But trying something that's difficult can also be very developmentally healthy for them, even if it's something that they're going to fail at the first time, or something that they're not going to be able to grasp until they try quite a few times, But yourself, it's very difficult to tolerate the child's anxiety and distress, and you also just mightn't have the capacity to cope with their anxiety on top of your own challenges in the moment, so. And then you fear the child's behavioral response if it's a thing that you make them do something, But I suppose the evidence is there to say that when we look at a situation, they will have a thought. The thought is that this dog is going to bite me. So they feel scared and they run away. And they're in the house and they're safe because they stayed away from the dog. But the truth is then they go back out, and because most dogs are not going to bite us, and they're still going to have the worry when they don't embrace the thing. So look, this is just a very simple thing that we use for children when we're trying to encourage them to do something, And I was looking at a show some time ago, and it was about I think it was an autistic person was going on a date, and it was one of these dating shows, and the date had set up something around, I think, a little paddle boat. You have to press the pedals on the boat, and they were very, very resistant, terrified of the water. The water was only going to be, a couple of feet deep or whatever it was, but and they were so fearful. But then they went and they did it, and it was just extraordinary to see just even somebody who's so full of fear could get such joy out of something that they mastered. And the next thing was something similar. I can't remember what it was. Maybe going on a Ferris wheel, maybe I think it was, or something was the next day. And again, so full of fear, like petrified, but eventually with slow coaxing was convinced to do it. And it was extraordinary again just to see the joy in their face when they had mastered it. So we and again, this is not a judgment about parents, by the way, because there are lots of things that either the child's never going to master, and so you don't want to encourage it, or there's something you fear it's just going to be too much for them. So this is really just about the things that you think that they will be able to master in time. So sometimes if we over accommodate, then associated with poor treatment outcomes for children and when they become adults in relation to anxiety, reduce the effectiveness of the therapies that people might try with them. Accommodation conflicts with goal settings. So again, we're trying to set some goals and make little achievements, and then prevents effective treatment, limits opportunities for the child to learn that feared consequences are unlikely to happen. So generally in that kind of, my life has been full of terrible misfortunes, most of which never happened. We never learn that if we don't actually try and embrace life and just always avoid things, and reduce the young person's ability to adapt to change. So we generally try and encourage our facing or beating the fears. So praise attempts to conquer fears, anxieties. Just monitor their verbal and non-verbal reactions, and you would use as many kind of encouraging things that you can. Discourage avoidance or denial of their capacity to do something, and then rewards. I don't really like anything to do with punishments, so just rewards for brave efforts. So the positive affirmations, you can do it. Don't worry if you fail the first time. Everyone fails sometimes. Your best efforts are good enough. Failing is not falling down. Failing is staying down. And then it helps to avoid victim mode. I'll just see if there's anything new here, or 1947. We're not doing too bad on time. So reassurances that they are loved and safe. Explain that this is just how the brain's way of trying to figure out the world and what is safe and what is dangerous. So the brain is just overcautious. Sometimes I get children to literally say, because the anxiety is usually here in the back of our brain. So we use the kind of hand-brain model. This is down into the spine here. And usually fears are in this part here, which is what we call the reptilian brain. This very back bit here, this very old piece of where we first started to develop. And over the development of human beings and evolution, we developed up here into the more logical prefrontal cortex part, which kind of says, look, I'm probably going to be okay if I get on that Ferris wheel or whatever the case may be. Back here, it's like, oh my God, if I get on this thing, I'm going to die, you know? So I sometimes get the children to say, let your front brain talk to your back brain and say, look, back brain, I know you're actually just trying to protect me. I know you're actually just trying to come up with all the possible dangers that could happen. But actually, I got this. I think I'll be okay. This thing looks safe enough. My parents are allowing me to do it. So I think it's probably okay. And thank your back brain for trying to protect you, and then just give it a go. So that's usually just one we use, kind of the hand brain kind of thing. I can't remember the guy who came up with that, but anyway. So I help them see the logic and identify the source behind their fears. So tell them they're brave to face the fears, even though they are nervous and anxious. Remind them that you're a team and that you will make sure that they stay safe. It's not all down to them. And then try and not treat them as confidants. You know, children maybe at earlier times in life shouldn't be exposed to adult challenges, because that can increase their susceptibility to anxiety, you know. So if they're too involved in I suppose, challenges around finances, relationships, family feuds, health issues, job worries, those kind of things can just undermine and cause a constant underlying anxiety. So try and yeah, not choose them as confidants. Again, encourage them to confront their fears, don't avoid stuff. Now we need to also not present an overly optimistic view of the world, you know, because the world is not made of cotton wool and candy floss and rainbows and unicorns. Validate their fears, you know, so that it's not dismissive. Show them that you understand their experience, helping them to move forward, and you know, encourage them face the challenges, and also you yourself show when you're facing a challenge. Let them know when you're a bit anxious about something but going to go for it anyway. Let them know that you have this presentation coming up that you're anxious about, and what you're doing to maintain yourself and that. So good practice in terms of relaxation methods and those kind of things. Okay, model healthy ways of managing your own anxiety. So bedtime, then it should be a pleasant experience, comfortable environment. So maybe try and leave the phone out of the room if at all possible. These are just ways to help an anxious child, just to make sure that they have positive bedtime routines, so that it's a relaxing environment. Create morning routines that are also in a relaxed manner. Try not to foster comparison, in that compare and despair, whether they're talking about their friends, neighbors, siblings, and please don't you try and compare them. You know, look at how well your cousin did in their test and what you compared to you. They're just tricky things, all individuals, you know. Facilitate friendship nurturing. So I encourage younger people to join the clubs, the scouts, self-defense, performance things, summer camps. All of those things help to broaden out their social network and their capacity for developing social skills and building confidence. I was giving a talk in a school last week or the week before, and you know, I was looking for a couple of volunteers to come up for a memory game. They were leaving cert students, And it was just interesting that the two students that came up to volunteer for it were also students who had a part-time job one in a bakery and one in a shop. And I just thought it's interesting that they're the two that came up to volunteer. They had the confidence to meet someone new like myself, confidence to get up in front of their peers and give something new a try. So, the more exposure as a young person has to kind of having to represent themselves independently, it's very good for them. Reward systems then for giving things a go, and then limited duration of exposure to anxious events. So yeah, I suppose it's about asking them to just give something a try, just a small try at the start, and then build it up gradually after that. I'm not going to have time to go through all of these, but they'll be on the slides there. A lot of them are, again, I think we've covered a lot of them there in other slides. So caregivers' anxiety, so then this is about the parents themselves. So anxiety in a household can be passed around. Again, this is not a judgment. It's just, I suppose, you just need to put the information out there. So trying to foster kind of places where households should try and maybe aim to be anxiety-free zones, with similar habits being observed during extensions of family, like in the cars, or meals out, or on events, or on holidays. Trying to model calmness, and when a child is anxious, your response will counterbalance their anxiety. So your calm response, it's like, when you're on a plane and there's a bit of turbulence, and you keep an eye on this air steward, and they're just going up and down very calmly, still rocking away with the trolley. You're like, okay, well, if they're okay, I think this thing will be okay. Normalizing children's anxieties and reassuring them that everyone has these. Yeah, that's okay. Resilience, then, a lot of that we've covered already. Let's see, gradual exposure, we spoke about that. Healthy attitude to failure, yeah, that's fine. Failing is not falling down, failing is staying down. Give it one more try. Positive affirmations, we spoke about rewarding them. Remind them that you believe in them, that's very important. It's something I try and say to all the young people that I work with, at least at some point along the process of my work with them, just to say I believe in them. They need to hear it somewhere along the way. Being rejected is not always a bad thing. Sometimes they get hugely upset because they've been dumped by somebody or whatever the case may be. But ultimately, the job of a young person is to have their heart broken a few times, break a few hearts. That's just how it is. Sometimes a friend who dumps them is not a bad thing because that friend might just see them as not being like them. So if it's a kind of a bully type person, it can be a positive thing that that bully didn't see them as being like them. And so they parted ways, Okay, become an ambassador for, okay, well, that's about, I suppose, if somebody was neurodivergent or dyslexic or autistic or gay or whatever it is, just that they take ownership of their label. And, well, labels are for jars, not for people, but, we end up with labels or titles or identities. So yeah, I mean, if something gets cancelled, use it as an opportunity to say, oh, okay, this is something that we couldn't control. So what do you think we can do here? And try and encourage your child to be problem solvers. You need to practice being gracious in victory and dignified in defeat. Do some problem solving sessions when an opportunity arises. Practice relaxation techniques as a family, or at least if they see you doing it, they will maybe follow on. And promote the concept of plan B, C, D, E, etc. We've gone through some of those hygiene things. I'm going to finish up with this little video if we could, because it probably takes up close to the end. It's really just a neat little story. It looks a little bit silly, it looks a little bit childish, but the message in it is quite good. And yeah, so let's just have a look at this.
Cocoon and a butterfly. A boy found the cocoon of a butterfly. One day, a small opening appeared. He sat and watched the butterfly for several hours as it struggled to force its body through that little hole. Then it seemed to stop making any progress. It appeared as if it had gotten as far as it could and could go no further. So the boy decided to help the butterfly. He took a pair of scissors and snipped off the remaining bit of the cocoon. The butterfly then emerged easily, but it had a swollen body and small shriveled wings. The boy continued to watch the butterfly because he expected that at any moment the wings could enlarge and expand to be able to support the body, which would contract in time. Neither happened. In fact, the butterfly spent the rest of its life crawling around with a swollen body and shriveled wings. It never was able to fly. What a man in his kindness and haste did not understand was that the restricting cocoon and the struggle required for the butterfly to get through the tiny opening were nature's way of forcing fluid from the body of the butterfly into its wings so that it would be ready for flight once it achieved its freedom from the cocoon. Moral of the story: our struggles in life help to develop our strengths. Without struggles, we never grow and get stronger. So it's important for us to tackle challenges on our own and not rely on help from others all the time.
So I
The
suppose
end.
yeah, there's just a few resources there. So I suppose the moral of the story there is that the children are just a little bit like the caterpillar going through the difficulties of teenage years, and sometimes you just got to let them struggle, and in all that struggle is development and lessons to be learned and all of that. Obviously, we need to balance it out with what they're able for and what they can bear. There's a couple of slides there in relation to some other resources for you in relation to online safety and stuff. So we're just up on time. I'm going to leave it at that for now. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I hope you got something out of that. Off the recording now. Thank you very much.